The Lost Heir by the plot twist. The storm raged mercilessly against the darkened streets of Lagos, the howling wind carrying whispers of sorrow and fate. In the shadows of an unforgiving night, a lone figure clutched a newborn child, her heart pounding with fear and desperation. Amara's tears blended with the raindrops as she fled from the mansion that had once promised her love and security, now nothing more than a cruel reminder of betrayal. She had loved Cunnel with every fiber of her being, but love alone had not been enough to withstand the weight of his family's rejection. Cast out and abandoned, she faced the cold reality that she and her child were alone in a world that had turned its back on them. Yet, as she held her baby boy close, she vowed through trembling lips that he would never know defeat, that she would carve a path for him even if it meant walking through fire. Unbeknownst to her, the man she left behind would soon rise to unimaginable heights, building an empire on the ruins of his regrets. But destiny was not done with them yet. What was lost in the store of the past would one day find its way back in the most unexpected of ways. The night was cold, and the streets of Lagos were unkind to a young mother and her newborn child. Amara clutched her baby boy, Daniel, to her chest, her heart weighed down by sorrow and fear. Each step away from the mansion felt like a dagger in her soul. The love she shared with Cunnel had been real, but now it was overshadowed by the cruel rejection of his family. As tears streamed down her face, she whispered a silent promise to her son. She would fight for him, no matter the cost. Cunnel's parents had made it clear Amara was not fit to be their son's wife. Cunnel, torn between love and duty, felt helpless. His heart ached as he watched Amara leave, his fists clenched in frustration at his own powerlessness. Guilt and shame gnawed at him, but he had no means to fight back. As the gate closed behind her, he felt an unbearable emptiness consume him. Years passed, and struggle became a familiar companion to Amara and Daniel. Amara's every waking moment was spent working tirelessly, the exhaustion evident in her sunken eyes and calloused hands. Her heart ached watching Daniel go to bed hungry, yet she forced a smile, masking her pain with unwavering resilience. Daniel, growing up in hardship, learned to bottle his emotions. He admired his mother's strength, but resented the unfairness of life. Each rumbling of his empty stomach was a reminder of what they had lost, of the father who had abandoned them. Deep down, anger simmered beneath his quiet exterior, but he channeled it into determination. He would rise above his past. Meanwhile, Cunnel was not the same man he had been. The betrayal of his own weakness haunted him, pushing him to build an empire from the ground up. Cunnel Industries became one of the most successful corporations in the country, but wealth could not fill the void in his heart. He told himself he had moved on, but every success was tainted by the thought of the life he had lost. By the time Daniel finished his university degree in accounting, he had hardened into a young man of unshakable resolve. He viewed the world through skeptical eyes, wary of trust, but determined to succeed. When he applied for a job at Cunnel Industries, he felt nothing, no nostalgia, no longing. To him, this was just another step toward his goal. As an accountant at Cunnel Industries, Daniel quickly gained the attention of top executives. Each praise from Cunnel himself was a bittersweet irony, admiration from a father who did not even know him. Cunnel, on the other hand, felt an inexplicable pull toward the young man. Something about Daniel's presence stirred old wounds, but he dismissed it as coincidence. One day, during a major financial audit, Daniel stumbled upon an old document, his mother's name, Amara, linked to Cunnel Okafor in a way that sent chills down his spine. His hands trembled, his breath hitched. His mind raced through years of question, frustrations, and pain. The truth hit him like a storm. Cunnel Okafor was his father. Shock gave way to rage. Daniel's pulse pounded as he confronted his mother that night, his voice thick with betrayal. Amara, with tears in her eyes, confessed everything. She had kept the truth from him to shield him from the pain of rejection. Daniel's anger wavered, replaced by a whirlwind of emotions, hurt, confusion, longing. The next morning, Daniel walked into the CEO's office, his heart a battlefield of emotions. Cunnel looked up and smiled, oblivious to the storm brewing before him. "What is it, Daniel?" Daniel took a deep breath, his voice laced with restrained fury. "Sir, I believe there's something you need to know." He placed the old documents on the table, his hands clenched into fists. You abandoned my mother years ago, and in doing so, you left me behind too. Cunnell's world shattered. He stared at the papers, then at Daniel, his own son, standing before him all these years, unnoticed. Guilt, regret, and longing flooded his heart. The walls he had built around his emotions crumbled in an instant. Daniel! Cunnell's voice was barely a whisper. You are my son? Daniel's jaw tightened. Yes, and my mother suffered because of you. Tears welled in Cunnell's eyes. He stood up, crossing the distance between them, but Daniel stepped back. I didn't know, Cunnell whispered, his voice breaking. I never stopped thinking about her. I never stopped regretting. It took time, but Cunnell fought to make things right. He sought out Amara, his heart in his throat, and fell to his knees, begging for her forgiveness. Amara, overcome with years of buried emotions, let her tears fall. For the first time in decades, they sat together, three hearts wounded by the past but yearning for healing. Daniel, still grappling with the weight of his emotions, watched as his parents reunited, not as lovers, but as two souls finally at peace. And so, in the unlikeliest of ways, fate had mended what was once broken. Daniel, the boy who had grown up struggling, had unknowingly walked into the life of the man who had given him life. But in the end, family was not about how they were separated. It was about how they found their way back to each other. Thank you. PLS do well subscribe to my YouTube channel.